welcome to Addison Ask, the podcast that gives you real experts, real relatable topics, and the real steps for healing and growth. Each episode, we tackle a unique topic to up-level your life. I'm Addison Bell, leading sex and relationship coach and holistic energy practitioner. And today we are blessed to have Katie Oman, author, women's empowerment coach, psychic, teacher, and motivational speaker here with us. I had the blessing to do a podcast with her a couple months back, and the conversation was just on fire. And so I wanted to invite you onto Addison Asks. And Katie has written 6 books today, including Happiness, Make Your Soul Smile, and The Self-Love Pledge. And so today we're going to be talking about real self-love in an inauthentic world. And so Welcome to the show, Katie. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Addison. It's an absolute pleasure to be here, and I'm excited. I think this is going to be an awesome chat. I really do.
Yeah, I'm excited for this conversation. And so when I brought this topic to you, and what came to mind about real self-love in an inauthentic world? Do you feel like that's fair?
Oh my goodness me, absolutely. I mean, when I wrote the book, I wrote it at a time because I always write things that I need in that moment. So I'm very much like, I write the book that I want to read, right? And what's interesting for me, because this came out in February last year, right before the pandemic hit, right? It was like, of course, we didn't know we were going to go through this crazy time and all that stuff. And it's almost like it was the most timely thing ever, because what I've realized is the pandemic and the lockdowns and everything we've been through has brought up so many people's stuff, just this oozingly of stuff, right? And people are at home and they're with themselves more. They've got more time to think, and then they're reaching for the cookie jar and the chips and the pretzels, and we're not exercising, and we feel fat and we feel right? And it's like self-love is like an issue, but at the same time you've got social media with all of the, all of this crap going on, and it's like this mismatch between what the outside world is wanting us to be like and what we're actually being like,
Yeah, it's very, we are totally mismatching a lot of times in our world. This is why I like to share about like my difficult times and my good times, because the fact is we're all human. But I think we get this idea, especially on social media, that we have to be this great, if in order to love ourselves, we have to be up here all the time. And almost it comes across as fake, because it's this fake energy of, yeah, I'm perfect, I love myself. But at the end of the day, it's like, are you really doing the self-love practices you desire? And so what do you, when you work with people individually, or in your book, what do you like to really focus in on in getting to that space of self-love? Because I think that feels very nebulous to a lot of people, self-love.
Yeah, absolutely, because it becomes just like the hashtag, right? It's like, it's fabulous. Without the work behind it, it's like a thing that people compose that they think like they're on trend or they're doing something great, like self-development. But without all the work, it doesn't mean anything, right? And actually, it's work and it's continual. I'm sorry, I know. If I had a magic pill that you could all take and we all love ourselves tomorrow, I would be like the world's richest woman, right? But it's lifelong work. This is a lifelong journey. And to answer your question, the way to get closer to where you want to be is to first of all focus on what you don't want to be. So to get closer to self-love, you have to look at the blocks and the obstacles and the issues that are stopping you getting to that place. Because self-love is your natural state. When babies come out of the womb, they're not sitting there worrying about their thigh gap and worrying about, how many followers they've got. And they just pure love. It's the world, it's the pressures, it's society, it's the media, it's the patriarchy that takes us away from our divine essence. And we have to start to kind of remove all of those layers of insecurities and self-beliefs and all this anxiety that we all have to get back to who we are originally.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think that we oftentimes forget to tap into that inner self, which is that space of self-love. But I think a lot of people want to do it from this kind of fake space instead of like doing the work, like you stated. Like it does require us, and I'm not sure I'm 100% on the term work, but it does. It's like it is that inner journey. It's that shadow work. It's all of the muck and seeing the beauty too at the same time.
Yeah, of course. It's not all doom and gloom. Absolutely not.
So from a personal standpoint, because I always like to put people under the bus, because I know that as we do our work as practitioners and coaches and authors, that oftentimes that's where our inspiration comes from. And so do you believe that you've always been in this space of self-love, or is this a new space?
Hell no. I wish that I'd been this person that was like, I'm little Miss Self-Love. No, I was the antithesis of that. I was on the opposite end of the spectrum. And yet, if you'd met me, you wouldn't know. Yes. You wouldn't know what was going on in here, because outwardly I was confident, I was gobby, I was little Miss Sunshine. You would not know what all the inner doubts and anxieties and how much I really did not like myself. For years, I used to, sounds awful now in hindsight, but I used to literally wish and pray on like birthday candles and in wishing wells and, you know, everything to be somebody else, anybody else, because I did not want to be me. I like me. I thought all I could see when I looked in the mirror was with my issues. I was like, well, this is wrong and that's wrong and that's wrong and that's wrong. But at the same time, I didn't have the awareness of how that thinking was really, really toxic. Yes. For my own journey and my own life. I didn't see how it was affecting me. So I was a victim to circumstance and life was happening to me, right? So why do I always meet rubbish men? Why can I never be happy? Why is the and not realizing that I was walking through life in this energy of hating myself, which meant that I was drawing all of this crap towards me like a really awful magnet, you know?
Yeah, you're manifesting it. And I can totally relate. I mean, I don't hide the fact that I had a 10-year to 15-year eating disorder. And so, I mean, I did not come from this space of constant self-love. It really did require me getting kind of down and dirty. And so that's why actually you're very attractive to me with your book and our conversations, because I feel like I can totally relate to that, being in this space of really hate. Like, I don't even think I could try to hate myself at the level that I was hating myself years ago. Like, it would take work to hate myself at that level.
Absolutely.
And so I think a lot of people, when they hear the term self-love or self-care, they want to talk about, you know, going and getting massages, you know, sitting with self and being, I love myself, I'm amazing, or, you know, going and buying themselves flowers, which I think can be a piece of self-love. But do you really think that is the true essence of self-love?
It's a good starting point. I think it's you have to start somewhere, right? And if you've never even delved into self-love before, you've just seen it, but you've never even like touched the toe in the water. You have to start somewhere. And being kind to yourself is a really good place to start, right? And I do still buy myself flowers every week because I love it and it makes me happy. So those things that you said are important, but it gets to a point. It's almost like with spirituality. If you're doing all of the stuff that you'll read about in all of the spiritual books, it'll only take you so far, actually. They don't tell you that, but it will take you so far. You'll come to a point where you'll feel quite disenfranchised with it all, and it doesn't really resonate as much anymore. And that's because we don't just have to go up and out, we have to go down and in. And that's where people are frightened, because they're worried about what they're going to find. They're worried about their shadow. They're worried about what's in there and how scary it is, because the dark is scary. Yes. And yet, if you go into the dark, if you go into your shadow with all of your fears, all of your insecurities, all of your crap, and that's where your power is. That's where it is. And you turning away from it and going, no, I can't look at it. It's scary. you're giving your power to the shadow. It will just loom larger and larger and larger. The only way to really focus on it and heal it and let it go is to turn around and face it and see what's there. Yeah. Right? And self-love is not just niceness, it's dealing with your crap.
Yes.
It really is.
Do you think people should jump straight into that shadow work plan? Because I think like I mean, you're right. You have to go down and in. So, I mean, if somebody's listening right now and they're like, okay, let me go start doing my shadow work. Do you think, I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
The problem with our shadow work is because we spent most of our lives running away from it and denying it and hiding from it. We don't know what's in there. Yeah. And so it's a bit like Pandora's box. You take the lid off if you're not fully prepared, and it can be quite overwhelming with it because you're like, it's quite scary, and fear in itself is shadow, right? Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't just dive into it because I think it's too much, it's too big. I think you have to start slow. For me personally, one of the key ways I even started to just explore was to journal and just allow the words to come, to allow the feelings and the emotions to come, and not just to write it down free flow, but to actually read it back was sometimes quite shocking and surprising because I didn't really know what was there.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea to really like reread it, and then like it's a witnessing process to see your own words, to see your own beliefs, to see everything on paper and actually pay attention to it is a witnessing process. And I think if we don't witness ourselves, we can't really be doing our shadow work. That's
exactly. Self-awareness is everything, because self-awareness is the first step to change. That's when, like, if somebody was an addict and you put them in rehab like 10, 12 times, whatever, that's not going to fully work for them if they don't admit they've got a problem themselves. Yeah. Self-awareness is key to everything, and self-awareness is your power. You can't you can't admit there's a problem, you can't see there's an issue and then expect to change it. Yeah, there has to be that first key step, you know?
Yeah, I know, I agree. And I always work with my clients on like loving yourself for just doing the work. Like if you can get to a space of like, I love that I am sitting here doing this difficult work that is pulling up all the things are coming up. I always tell my clients to really go there. As far as like daily practices, what do you do as far as your self-love practices? Because I think a lot of times it's like, what are we doing that's implementable? Yeah, we can sit and we can do some journaling, but like, what are we actually doing on a day-to-day basis? So
one of the key things that really worked for me, and of course it's different for everybody, but one of the things that really worked for me was when I discovered Louise Hay's mirror work. Mm-hmm. And just it was enough for me to, because normally with the mirror, you blow dry your hair, you do your makeup, but you don't really stay in that space. You do what you need to do and you leave, right? And even when you're looking in the mirror doing whatever, you'll still part of your brain's going, look at the size of my thighs, look at my belly, look at my whatever, because that's what we do. We're very, very critical, and our brain has a negativity bias. So you're more likely to look at your negativity and your problems than you are anything else. And I was having a really, really, really bad day. You know, one of those days where if anything can go wrong, it will go wrong. It's one of those, you know, like you bang your toe, you drop things, everything was going wrong. And I was quite emotional. And I was in the bedroom and I looked in the mirror. Now, normally my thing would be to go. But for some reason, I was like, no, we're going to stay here, right? Now, my brain was, and as I was just looking at my reflection, my brain was giving me all the normal crap going, you're useless, you're fat, you're ugly, no one likes you, you're a failure, blah, 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 blah. On. And it was just like the most intense bullying ever, right? And my whole body was in like fight or flight mode, and the adrenaline was flowing, and I was just so uncomfortable. There's a good point to the story, don't worry, there's not all crap. I made myself stay, and the more that I sat, the more that voice of negativity started to very slowly quieten down. Yeah. And what was left was just me and my reflection. And once the negativity had quietened down, I started to go, I love you. I'm so proud of you. You're amazing. Look at everything you've come through. Look at everything you've survived. You are wonderful. You are worthy. You are deserved to be happy. And initially my brain kind of laughed and kind of sneered at me. But the thing is that I do that practice now every day. And that negative voice in my head does not loom large anymore. It will always be there because you can't get rid of your ego. But it doesn't have that same ferocity anymore. And it quietens down quite quickly. And telling myself that I'm proud of myself and I love myself and I deserve to be happy has really, every day has shifted something in my brain and shifted my neurological pathways so that my brain now accepts that as true. But that's me having to show up every day.
And I bet that on those days that you are having a bad day, because surprise, coaches, mentors, psychics, like we all have our days when everything goes wrong and we're having a moment too.
Yeah.
And so I would imagine that you setting that practice up, that on those difficult days, they're just not as difficult as even some of your better days before you started those practices.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the wonderful thing about having a daily practice, is that when you do have a bad day, because yes, we are human, you don't stay there. So before, I would spiral down quite quickly, and it would almost become like, then this was bad and that was bad, and suddenly I was in a space where just my whole life was crap and I was crap, and it was all just a horrible, horrible mess. And I would stay there for weeks, if not months. Now I can see it for what it is, and I can come back out of it fairly quickly because I have that awareness and that practice to help myself.
So my question, because this is all about, self-love in an inauthentic world, what are your thoughts on why we are right now so inauthentic in how we're showing up in our love for self and with others, really?
Because we haven't been taught how to. I don't remember, I remember at school being taught fractions and Romans and about lakes and rivers and all this stuff. No one ever really sat me down and explained to me about my mental health. No one ever really explained to me about my self-worth. Mm-hmm. No one ever really explained to me about my happiness or my well-being. And so we're kind of thrown out into adulthood with no coping mechanisms and no skills. We don't really know what we're doing. And we're expected to get on with it. We're expected to just be an adult in this crazy ass world where, we're being bombarded every day, every single day from the media to hate ourselves. The media and advertising does not want you to love yourself.
No.
People don't get that, because if you love yourself, they won't sell their product, right? So the makeup, the diet industry, the exercising, the clothing, the cars, everything. Every possible advert that you look at and every possible media outlet is giving you the message that you are not good enough as you are, right? And we are bombarded with these messages ever since we are born. And we wonder why we're screwed up, right?
Yeah.
And then so to learn self-love feels completely alien. Like, you can get it on a logical basis and you can understand why it's important, but to actually do it is going against the programming we've all been given in the Western world. We've all been programmed to this doesn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah, we're all trying to look our best to make it out in the world. And I think, to your point, we are being raised by, were raised by people who didn't necessarily learn to love themselves. And this is a generational pattern where we're really spiraling down. Even take out parents, like teachers, coaches, people that we are around. Like when we lift up the whole community, that's when we really start to see massive changes in self-love.
Yeah,
Which is, I know, a very aspirational goal, but I think we're finally starting to awaken to the importance of this self-love and how, in truth, like, you can be incredibly smart, but if you don't love yourself, then you're not going to be able to make the progress in your life that you truly desire.
I really believe it's the foundations of happiness. You can't have healthy relationships with other people, really, if you don't love yourself first, right? There's a RuPaul quote from Drag Race, and she says, if you can't love yourself, how in the hell are you going to love somebody else? Now, that can be problematic, because it's kind of saying that people that don't love themselves can't be in love and have a, but it's almost like you're going to bring your issues to the table at some point, right? And they're going to trigger you, and all of your stuff's going to come up. And so it helps you to have healthier relationships with other people. It also helps you to go for your dreams and your goals and your aspirations. Because if you have all these stuff in your head, as we all do, and believe me, been there, done that, got on the t-shirt several times, if you don't think that you're worthy and deserving of them, you won't make them happen. Because you'll think, well, I have this dream to be a writer, for example, but I'm not good enough. No one's going to buy my book, so what's the point? Whereas if you love yourself enough to know, well, this matters to me, this is important to me, I'm going to try. And that's the difference right there. Right?
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And I think you're right on track there, is that, in order to move forward, in order to make these beautiful things, these gifts come to life, we have to have some level of self-love. And as a sex and relationship coach, I deal with so much self-love. That's like one of the biggest things I deal with, is loving self, embodying self, from that space of self-love, because this is where couples really get into difficulties, both in the bedroom, out of the bedroom, just even in friendships and children relationships, because like they're being swirled, and they don't know how to deal with it. They don't know how to love themselves, so they get so trapped in that shadow self. So
well, that's the problem, isn't it? Is that we look to everybody else around us to validate us and to fix us and make us better, rather than doing our own work. But if they're looking at us to do that for them, it's like it's all this power play all the time, and there's too much pressure on one person to fix your life for you. Like, go and look in the mirror. That's the person that should be fixing your life. It's your responsibility, not your partner's or your parents or your child. It's yours.
Yeah. Well, I think that's beautiful. Do you have anything else you want to add to this topic? Anything that you cannot leave around this topic without saying? I know you are super passionate, wrote all these books.
I am super passionate about it. It just means, because I don't think people take it seriously enough even now. I think some people look at me as kind of like, oh, look at her with a nice little idea over there. And I'm like, this is important. And what I will say is that I do work predominantly with women, because I kind of want to rise women up, and I think it's really important at the moment. But for any man watching, or any man in your life, please know that self-love is not just a feminist issue. If anything, I think men are under intense pressure at the moment to be a certain body shape and to be a certain kind of masculinity, and men don't really know where they fit in the world anymore, because their roles have been taken away from them to a certain degree. And men learning to love themselves is equally important as is for women. And when we all look after ourselves and watch our well-being and our health and our happiness, we all rise up together, and it can only benefit us as a whole.
Yes, I would agree. It's right on. So we're going to enter our little Addison Ask Fire Zone. So first question, what is your finest quality and trait? What is something you really want to brag about yourself about?
I have such vicious, that's even the word, Katie, I can't even speak. I have such vicious optimism for life and for humanity. Like I say, the mind has a negativity bias. People are typically more negative and pessimistic than optimistic. I came in the world like Little Miss Sunshine. I just see the best in everybody, and I see people's potential even when they can't see it themselves. And that's why I realized my job is to help them discover it and pull it out, because I can see, and that's why I get so passionate to the point of frustration with people that really don't believe in themselves, because I can see it. I can literally see their light, and I'm like, you're amazing. It's like, I'm like, oh my God. So I just have this real, just believe in people as a whole. I just think people are awesome.
For any of our viewers listening, watching, what is one thing you want them to leave asking themselves today?
Why do you think that everybody else around you deserves your love and you don't? Why do you think that people around you are more important than you? Why do you put yourself on the bottom of your list on a daily basis and you think that's okay? Do you think that's honestly going to make you happy?
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful, beautiful question to go journal on, think about, and to get really real with it, because I think you can give like this pat answer, but to dive deep into that, I think that's
keep asking why. So every time you answer the question, ask yourself why that is again, and keep going why, down and down till you get to the real core of what's going on. Because the first answer is not really the answer. You have to keep digging and asking why. Yeah. Why do you think that? Where's that come from? Do you know what I mean? It's like digging is important.
Is that true? Is that true? I love asking that. And so where can we find you? I know all the links are going to be below, but while we're live, where can we find you? Where can we find your magic?
I try to make things as very simple as possible. For years, I would have different like misnomers. So I was Little White Feathers, and I was Psychic Mama, and I realized that it was making my life very, very complicated. So now it's dead easy. It's just me. So my website is katieoman.co.uk, and you will find everything on there that I do. And I have lots of strings to my bow, as you know. I have many, many things going on. And bless you. Social media, I have the same handle over every platform. So it's Katie Oman and bless you.
Thank you.
All right, Katie Oman and then 41, so 1111. And if you put that in, you will find me.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I am, as always, Addison Bell. You can find me at www.addisonbell.net or on Facebook at Addison Bell Coaching. And so join us in a few weeks for another guest, another more magic. I want to say thank you so much, Katie, for this conversation and for helping our viewers to just really think a little bit more on how to be truly self-loving in this current inauthentic world. So thank you, and we will see you next time, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.